The planet Zyphera gleamed under the light of twin suns, its crystal towers reaching high into the sky. The city was alive with movement, a symphony of colors and lights reflecting off the polished streets and soaring buildings. Citizens of all kinds moved gracefully, their delicate clothing shimmering in the golden light. At the center of it all was the royal palace, a magnificent structure of crystal and steel, home to Princess Lyra, the young and brilliant heir to the Zypheran throne. Lyra was known throughout the galaxy for her intelligence, curiosity, and sharp wit. She studied the history, science, and cultures of countless worlds, always asking questions, always seeking knowledge. Despite her wisdom, she carried a stubborn streak, a fierce desire to make her own choices, especially when it came to marriage. In Zypheran culture, royal marriages were arranged to strengthen alliances between planets, and the princess had no interest in following tradition blindly. Today was different. The palace courtyard was filled with dignitaries, ambassadors, and citizens from across the galaxy. They had gathered to witness the grand announcement of Lyra's next engagement, a union meant to secure Zyphora's political future. Robots floated above the crowd, projecting shimmering images of distant planets, and musicians played harmonious tunes that resonated with the crystal towers. Lyra stepped onto the raised platform, her golden hair flowing behind her. Her eyes scanned the crowd, taking in the faces of her advisors, foreign envoys, and the people she was meant to serve. Her heart beat with a mix of pride and defiance. Today she would speak her truth regardless of tradition. "I will marry anyone but the human," she declared, her voice strong and unwavering. The crowd gasped. Whispers filled the air, spreading like wildfire. Humans were known throughout the galaxy as unpredictable, resilient, and sometimes reckless. The human envoy, Commander Elias, stood among the assembled dignitaries, his calm expression unreadable. Where others would have reacted with anger or offense, Elias simply observed, quietly noting her words. Lyra's advisors frowned. Some whispered, among themselves, warning her of the political consequences. Rejecting humans so publicly was risky. Humans were becoming influential in nearby systems, and her statement could be seen as an insult, damaging relations with a growing power. But Lyra did not waver. She had made her decision based on everything she had read, every story she had heard, and every warning she had received. Humans were reckless by nature. She would not be their bride. Elias stepped forward. His uniform was simple, but his posture was confident. He did not raise his voice or show offense. Instead, he bowed slightly and said, "Princess Lyra, I hear your words. I do not take offense, I only wish to understand." The crowd murmured at his calmness. Many had expected outrage, yet Elias remained composed. His demeanor was not arrogance, it was quiet observation, a patience that unsettled many. Lyra felt a flicker of curiosity despite herself. There was something different about him, something she could not ignore. "Understanding will not change my decision, human," Lyra replied, her tone firm. "My words are my own, and I will not yield them lightly." Elias nodded. "I understand, Princess, but perhaps I can prove that humans are capable of more than you believe. Actions, not words, show the truth." Lyra raised an eyebrow. "And how do you propose to do that?" "Through a challenge," Elias said simply. "Allow me to demonstrate through action that humans can be brave, clever, and trustworthy. Let the trials speak for themselves." The princess considered his words. Few humans had faced her people directly, and fewer still had earned admiration. She was curious, though she would never admit it aloud, about what this human might accomplish. "Very well," she said at last. "If you succeed in my trials, you may prove your worth, but fail, and you will remain what you are, a human outsider." Elias bowed. "I accept." The first trial was set in the Hall of Puzzles, a vast circular chamber filled with strange devices, shifting symbols, and holographic images. The walls pulsed with soft light, and the floor was etched with intricate patterns. Zypherans had designed the puzzles to test intelligence, logic, and observation, challenges that required more than simple skill. Elias stepped forward, studying the first device. It was a cube covered in alien symbols that changed every few seconds. Cypherans could solve these cubes by sensing subtle energy flows, a method unfamiliar to humans. Elias could not rely on intuition. He had to think, observe, and reason carefully. He examined the patterns, noting repetitions and sequences invisible at first glance. Slowly, deliberately, he manipulated the cube, pressing the correct symbols in order. The cube clicked and shifted, revealing a hidden compartment. A soft light glowed from within, signaling success. A murmur ran through the observers. The human had solved the puzzle. Lyra's eyes narrowed, not with anger but with intrigue. He had done what few expected. "You are clever," she admitted, her voice measured. "But intelligence alone does not prove worthiness." The second trial was a test of adaptability. Lyra transported Elias to a simulated alien environment, a dense forest with shifting terrain, floating rocks, and streams that glowed with soft green light. His task was to retrieve a rare crystalline flower from the heart of the forest while avoiding hazards. The forest was alive with challenges. Trees moved unexpectedly, streams changed direction, and strange luminous creatures darted about. Many Cypherans had failed this trial, lost in the alien landscape. Elias moved carefully. He observed patterns, adjusted his path, and used logic to navigate obstacles. When he encountered a glowing plant that blocked his way, he noticed it reacted to sound. He spoke softly, moving in a rhythm that allowed him to pass safely. Hours passed. Finally, he reached the flower, its crystalline petals shimmering in the alien light. He held it high, and the observers gasped in admiration. Lyra felt a flicker of respect she could not hide. "You are skilled at observation," she said. "But skill alone does not show empathy." The third trial tested morality and diplomacy. Elias was brought to the Hall of Peoples, where representatives of different Cypheran communities awaited. Each presented a problem or conflict. One village disputed water rights with a neighboring city. Another had a moral dilemma involving a machine that could create unlimited energy, but threatened a rare ecosystem. Elias listened carefully to each, asking questions to understand perspectives fully. He proposed solutions that balanced justice, innovation, and conservation. He did not impose his will. He sought understanding, fairness, and collaboration. Lyra watched silently. The crowd began to murmur approval. Even her advisors, who had doubted him, began to nod in admiration. The humans' actions were not reckless. They were thoughtful, deliberate, and effective. At the end of the trials, Lyra spoke. "You have shown intelligence, adaptability, and empathy. Yet, I still cannot promise marriage. Humans are unpredictable, and my judgment is not so easily swayed." Elias smiled politely. "I understand, Princess. I did not come to seek favor. I came to show that humans are capable of more than reputation suggests. Whether marriage is possible or not, our peoples can still learn from each other." Lyra studied him carefully, realizing that she had underestimated humans. Here was one who combined courage, thoughtfulness, and humility. And though she refused to admit it aloud, a seed of curiosity about him, and about humans in general, had been planted in her mind. As the sun set over Zephora, casting golden light across the towers, Lyra walked alone through the palace gardens. She reflected on the day's events, the trials, and the calm strength of the human who had dared to challenge her assumptions. She realized that her prejudice against humans had been based on fear and stories, not experience. Elias had shown her that humans could be brave, clever, and kind, and yet her pride and duty remained. She had declared she would marry anyone but the human. That decision had not changed, but her heart felt a new curiosity. Perhaps humans were not as reckless as she had believed. Perhaps they were capable of extraordinary things. For now, she would observe, learn, and continue the trials. The first step had been taken. The human had shown promise, and Lyra could not ignore it. And somewhere in the shadows of the palace, Elias prepared himself for the trials yet to come, calm, patient, and determined to prove that humans, often underestimated, were capable of greatness beyond expectation. The royal decree had been spoken, the trials had begun, and a story of courage, wisdom, and unexpected partnership was about to unfold. The sun of Zyphera cast long golden rays over the crystal towers of the royal city. Princess Lyra stood on the balcony of the palace, her eyes scanning the bustling streets below. Citizens moved like threads in a tapestry, their delicate clothing shimmering in the sunlight. Despite the beauty around her, Lyra's mind was restless. She had declared, "I will marry anyone but the human," and the words echoed in her thoughts. But something about the human envoy, Commander Elias, stirred an unfamiliar curiosity. Elias had been quiet during the grand ceremony, his calm presence contrasting with the storm of reactions around him. Where others saw arrogance or recklessness, Lyra noticed something different: confidence without arrogance, intelligence without show. She had expected him to react with outrage or defensiveness, but he had simply observed. That calm observation was more unsettling than any outburst could have been. Now he awaited her in the royal audience chamber. The room was vast, filled with tall glass walls that allowed light to pour in, and soft violet carpets that absorbed the sound of footsteps. Lyra entered gracefully, her golden hair catching the light, and Elias rose to greet her. "Princess Lyra," he said with a respectful bow, "thank you for granting me this audience." Lyra gave a small nod, her expression guarded. "You may speak, human, but do not assume this changes anything. My words at the ceremony still stand." Elias smiled faintly. "I do not wish to change your mind. I only wish to understand." Lyra's eyes narrowed slightly. "Understand? Very well. Then perhaps you can prove that humans are more than reckless creatures of habit. I will give you a challenge, a series of trials. If you succeed, I may reconsider my opinion of your species." Elias raised an eyebrow. "And if I fail?" "You will remain what you are," Lyra said coolly, "a human outsider." The first trial took place in the Hall of Puzzles, a circular chamber filled with devices, screens, and mechanisms designed to test intelligence and logic. Each puzzle seemed simple at first, but when examined closely, revealed layers of complexity only an advanced mind could navigate. Elias stepped forward, studying the first device. It was a cube covered in intricate symbols that changed every few seconds. Cypherans could solve these cubes by intuition, sensing patterns through subtle energy flows in the room. Humans relied on logic. He took a deep breath, ignoring the whispers from the observers behind the glass walls. Elias observed the patterns carefully, noticing that certain symbols repeated in sequences invisible to casual glance. With careful attention, he pressed the correct sequence. The cube shifted, clicked, and unfolded smoothly, revealing a hidden compartment. A murmur went through the crowd. The human had solved it. Lyra watched him closely, her arms folded. "Impressive," she admitted, though her voice remained firm. But puzzles alone do not prove worthiness. The second trial tested adaptability. Elias and Lyra were transported to a simulated alien environment, a dense forest with shifting terrain, floating rocks, and streams that glowed with soft green light. Their task was to retrieve a crystalline flower from the heart of the forest, while avoiding traps and hazards. The forest was alive with challenges. Trees shifted unexpectedly, streams formed new paths, and luminous creatures darted past. Many Zypherans had failed before, losing their way or misjudging distances. Elias moved carefully, observing the environment, noting patterns, and adjusting his path. He did not rush. When a glowing plant blocked his way, he examined it and realized it reacted to sound. By moving silently and softly, speaking directions aloud, he created a path through. Hours passed, but Elias persisted. Finally, he reached the flower, its crystalline petals sparkling in the alien light. He held it high as the observers gasped in admiration. Lyra, for the first time, felt a flicker of respect. "You are skilled at observation," she said. "But skill alone does not show empathy." The third trial was subtle and delicate. Lyra led Elias to the Hall of Peoples, where representatives of various Xiphoran communities awaited. Each presented a problem or conflict that required resolution. Humans often struggled in this trial, as diplomacy was nuanced and subtle emotions often eluded outsiders. A village elder described a dispute over shared resources between two communities. Elias listened patiently, asking questions to understand perspectives he had never encountered before. He offered a solution that considered both sides, finding common ground without compromising justice. Next, a young scientist presented a moral dilemma. A machine could generate unlimited energy but risked damaging a rare ecosystem. Elias weighed the consequences carefully, proposing a solution that balanced innovation with conservation. Lyra observed silently, noting his ability to think beyond himself. The other Xipharans began to murmur approval. "The human may understand more than we expected," one whispered. At the end of the trial, Lyra's voice echoed through the hall. "You have shown intelligence, adaptability, and empathy. Yet, I still cannot promise marriage. Humans are unpredictable, and my judgment is not so easily swayed." Elias smiled politely. "I understand, Princess. I did not come to seek favor, only to demonstrate what humans can offer. Whether marriage is possible or not, our peoples can still learn from one another." Lyra's expression softened, though she did not admit it aloud. There was something about his humility and calm determination that made her question her prejudice. As the trials continued over several days, Elias faced increasingly complex tests. One involved constructing a device that could purify a polluted river without harming native wildlife. Another required navigating political tensions between rival cities using only negotiation, without resorting to force. In each case, he succeeded. He combined human ingenuity with careful observation of Xipharan methods, blending logic, creativity, and empathy. The people watching began to cheer quietly for him, inspired by his courage and intelligence. Even Lyra felt a change within herself. She could not deny the admiration she felt. Here was a human who had surpassed expectations not through luck or strength, but through thoughtfulness, courage, and patience. Yet, she clung stubbornly to her original words. "I will not marry a human," she said one evening as they watched the twin moons rise. "Even if you have proven yourself, my decision stands. It is my choice and I will not yield it lightly." Elias turned to her, gazing at the glowing moons. "Then I respect your choice. But know this, Princess. Humans do not seek approval through force. We seek to earn trust, step by step. Whether as allies, friends, or something more. Respect cannot be demanded, it must be earned." Lyra said nothing, but the words lingered in her mind. That night she walked the palace gardens alone, reflecting. She realized that she had judged humans based on reputation and fear rather than understanding. Elias had shown her that humans could combine courage, creativity, and empathy in ways that even Xipharans sometimes overlooked. The next morning, Lyra summoned Elias to the sky terrace, where floating platforms hovered above the city. "You have done what no human has done before," she admitted. "You have passed every trial, impressed the people, and earned my respect. Yet, my words still stand." Elias bowed. "Then I will wait, Princess. I do not seek to rush you. I came to understand and to show what humans can offer. Your judgment is yours alone." Lyra studied him, noting his patience and calm resolve. "You are different," she said quietly, almost to herself. "Most humans rush in, thinking courage alone is enough. You think, you observe, you act carefully." Elias smiled. "We are capable of both courage and caution. Sometimes the greatest strength lies in knowing which to use and when." The princess nodded, feeling a mix of frustration and admiration. For the first time, she considered the possibility that her words, "I will marry anyone but the human," might not capture the truth. Perhaps humans were not merely reckless outsiders. Perhaps they were something more remarkable. The trials had changed more than Elias. They had also changed Lyra's perspective. She realized that prejudice, even subtle, could blind her to truth. And though she refused to admit it openly, a seed of curiosity about humans, and about Elias, had taken root in her heart. As the sun set over Zyphera, casting golden light over the towers and gardens, Lyra knew one thing for certain. The human challenge had ended, but a far greater challenge had begun. The challenge of confronting her own assumptions and discovering the unexpected strengths of a species she had once dismissed. And Elias? He stood calmly beside her, patient, observant, and ready for whatever trials might come next, knowing that true respect and understanding were earned, not demanded. The calm of Zyphera's capital did not last long. Just days after Elias had completed the trials, the sky turned dark with a shadow that made even the tallest crystal towers tremble. Princess Lyra stood on the balcony, her heart tightening. Alarms echoed across the city, warning of an approaching threat. A rogue faction of alien warriors, long disgruntled with the royal family, had launched a sudden attack. Their ships tore through the atmosphere, firing energy pulses that shattered the city's defenses. Civilians ran in panic, and the streets quickly became a maze of chaos and confusion. Lyra's first instinct was to flee to safety, but she knew that running would leave the people vulnerable. Her advisors urged her to retreat to the secure palace vaults, but she shook her head. "We will not abandon them," she said firmly. "If we hide, we lose more than the city. We lose honor and trust. Elias, I need your help." Elias was already assessing the situation. His human eyes scanned the cityscape, calculating paths, predicting enemy movements, and spotting weaknesses in their formation. "We need to organize a defense," he said calmly. "The people are panicking, but they can fight if guided. I will need your resources and your trust." Lyra nodded, even though her chest thumped with worry. She had never worked so closely with a human in a moment of crisis. Yet she realized that his calm thinking, his ability to see solutions where others saw only panic, might save countless lives. The first challenge was evacuating civilians from the most vulnerable districts. Flying platforms hovered above the streets, ready to transport the injured and the frightened. Elias coordinated volunteers and security teams, giving clear, precise instructions. His human strategies were different from what Zephyrians were used to, faster, more flexible, and adaptable to unexpected dangers. Despite initial skepticism from some Zypherians, the results were undeniable. Evacuations proceeded efficiently, with minimal casualties. Citizens whispered among themselves, impressed by the humans' ability to remain calm and decisive. Lyra could see the relief in their eyes, and her admiration for Elias deepened. The real test, however, was defending the palace. Rogue forces had breached the outer walls, and their numbers were far larger than anyone had anticipated. Zypheran guards fought bravely, their energy weapons flashing against the darkness, but the attackers were relentless. Elias moved through the ranks of defenders, issuing orders with precision. "Form a perimeter around the palace wings," he called. "Use the reflective shields to channel energy pulses. Don't waste them on individual targets. Focus on weak points." The Zypheran guards hesitated for a moment, unaccustomed to this unconventional strategy. But when they followed his instructions, the results were immediate. Energy pulses deflected harmlessly into the sky. Enemy ranks faltered, and the palace survived the first wave of the attack. Lyra watched Elias in action. His calm demeanor under fire, his ability to adapt, and his courage to stand among the front lines amazed her. For the first time, she saw humans not as reckless outsiders, but as beings capable of true bravery and intelligence. And yet, her pride and her words from the ceremony still held her back. Amid the chaos, a squad of rogue attackers managed to infiltrate the palace grounds. Lyra's advisors urged her to retreat, but Elias grabbed her hand. "Stay close," he said. "I will guide us through. Trust me." He led her through hidden passages, corridors filled with flickering lights, and chambers lined with ancient, Xipheran artifacts. Elias moved with careful speed, avoiding ambushes and guiding Lyra safely past dangers she had never imagined. In one corridor, a heavy metal door slammed shut behind them, trapping them in a small room. The walls vibrated with energy pulses from the fighting outside. Lyra's heart pounded, but Elias remained composed. "There is always a way," he said, examining the control panel. Within moments, he manipulated the mechanisms, opening a side exit that led them onto the palace rooftops. Lyra realized that what she had seen in the trials, the calm observation, the careful thinking, the quick problem-solving, was amplified in the real danger of battle. Outside, the battle raged. Energy beams cut through the sky, and explosions lit the streets. Citizens cheered when they saw the humans and loyal Xipherans working side by side to repel the invaders. Elias coordinated from the rooftops, signaling squads, adjusting defenses, and even improvising with alien technology to counter unexpected attacks. Lyra felt a strange warmth in her chest. She had seen bravery before, but this was different. Humans did not merely fight. They adapted, learned, and led with thought, not just strength. Even the fiercest Xipheran warriors began to follow his guidance, impressed by the efficiency of his strategies. The rogue faction was relentless, but Elias's leadership turned the tide. He devised traps that used the city's environment to the defenders' advantage, guided civilians safely to shelters, and anticipated enemy movements with uncanny precision. Lyra found herself inspired, not just by the human commander, but by the unity forming between two very different peoples. At the height of the battle, a massive explosion shook the palace. A section of the outer wall collapsed, sending debris flying into the streets. Lyra froze, fear gripping her, but Elias was immediately there, pulling her behind a reflective barrier that shimmered with alien energy. "Princess, stay calm," he said. "We can handle this, together." They watched as the loyal Xipheran guards, guided by human strategy, countered the attackers' advance. Citizens joined in, using ingenuity and courage to defend their homes. What had started as chaos slowly transformed into a coordinated defense. In a final push, Elias led a small strike team to disable the rogue faction's command center. They moved quickly, efficiently, and without hesitation. Using a combination of human tactics and alien technology, they succeeded. The remaining invaders, seeing their leader defeated, fled the city. When the dust settled, Xiphora was scarred but not broken. Buildings were damaged, but the people survived. The city had faced its greatest threat in decades, and human leadership had played a crucial role in saving countless lives. Lyra stood on the palace balcony once more, looking at the streets below. Citizens cheered and waved, many shouting Elias's name. She felt a mix of pride, relief, and something new. Admiration for the human who had not only fought bravely but had inspired her people to act with courage and unity. Elias approached, her calm and composed despite the exhaustion visible in his eyes. "The city is safe," he said. "Thanks to all of you, and your people's courage. Humans only guided and helped." Lyra studied him, noting the quiet humility in his voice. "You have done more than I imagined. You have saved lives, shown wisdom, and even inspired my people. Yet, my words at the ceremony still hold. I have said I will not marry a human." Elias smiled faintly. "I understand. I do not seek to change your mind with heroics or force. I only wish to show that humans are capable of great things, and that sometimes courage, intelligence, and empathy can make a difference beyond expectations." Lyra looked away, her thoughts swirling. The city had witnessed the human's greatness, but she was still uncertain how this affected her own feelings. Perhaps humans were not reckless after all. Perhaps they were remarkable. And perhaps she had underestimated them, including Elias. That evening, the Royal Council convened. Advisors praised Elias's role in saving the city. Citizens held celebrations in his honor, chanting and waving flags that displayed both human and Xipheran symbols. Lyra listened quietly, aware of the growing respect and admiration for humans, but also aware of the seed of change within her own heart. She walked through the palace gardens later that night, Elias at her side. The twin moons reflected on the crystal fountains, casting dancing lights across the petals of alien flowers. "You have shown strength beyond skill," Lyra admitted softly. "And yet, I am still wary. Humans are different, unpredictable, and I do not know if my heart can follow reason alone." Elias looked at her calmly. "Perhaps that is the greatest lesson. True respect, trust, and understanding are earned through actions, not words. And sometimes, hearts follow actions they never expected." Lyra smiled faintly, feeling a mix of frustration and admiration. She realized that her prejudice against humans was crumbling, not entirely, but enough to wonder if her beliefs had been wrong. As they walked, she knew one thing for certain. Humans had earned her respect, and perhaps, in time, something more. But for now, she would observe, reflect, and continue learning, just as she had done in the trials. The crisis had passed, but the journey was far from over. And Elias, calm and steady, remained a reminder that humans were capable of greatness, even in the face of fear and chaos. The city of Zephyra was slowly recovering from the chaos of the rogue attack. Crystal towers gleamed once more, and the streets, though scarred, were alive with renewed energy. Citizens celebrated not just survival, but the courage and unity that had protected them. Amid the recovery, Princess Lyra contemplated something new: humans. Elias had remained in the city, working alongside Xiphoran engineers, strategists, and scientists to repair the damage and strengthen defenses. But his presence had begun to mean more than practical help. Lyra found herself observing him closely, noticing how his methods were different, yet effective. Where Xipherans relied heavily on tradition, Elias adapted, learned, and improved processes in ways that surprised even the most experienced leaders. To rebuild trust and deepen understanding between humans and Xipherans, Lyra proposed a series of cultural exchanges. Humans would share their knowledge of technology, art, and problem-solving, while Xipherans would demonstrate their advanced science, traditions, and philosophy. It was a bold initiative, one that carried risks as well as promise. The first event was a science demonstration held in the palace courtyard. Human engineers showcased a water purification system that could work in both urban and wilderness areas. Many Xipherans had doubted humans' ability to solve problems sustainably, but when the system worked flawlessly, there was applause and murmurs of admiration. Elias guided the demonstration, explaining human principles in simple, clear terms. "Our focus is efficiency and adaptability," he said. "We design systems that can respond to change so they last longer and help more people." Lyra watched the crowd, seeing their reactions. Citizens who had once whispered skepticism now nodded and smiled. Even the youngest students approached Elias with curiosity, asking questions about Earth humans and their ways. Next came artistic exchanges. Xipherans were known for creating intricate luminescent art that responded to light and sound. Humans, in contrast, used color, movement, and storytelling in ways unfamiliar to the aliens. In a large hall, human musicians performed melodies that moved not just the ears but the heart, while dancers expressed emotions through gestures and rhythm. Lyra stood among her people, amazed. "I had not imagined humans could communicate so deeply without words," she whispered to Elias. He smiled gently. "We try to tell stories that others can feel, even if they do not fully understand the words or culture." The Festival of Art continued for several days. Xipheran children tried human instruments, while human artists learned to manipulate luminescent materials in ways Xipherans had perfected over centuries. Laughter, curiosity, and admiration filled the palace halls. Through these activities, Lyra saw humans and Xipherans learning from one another, combining creativity and logic, tradition and innovation. But not all were pleased with this growing bond. In the shadows, rival alien factions watched with concern. They feared that the cooperation between humans and Xipherans could shift power in the galaxy. Plans of sabotage were whispered in dark corners, and spies tried to infiltrate the palace under false pretenses. One evening, as Lyra walked through the palace gardens with Elias, she noticed subtle signs of disturbance: broken petals, displaced stones, and faint energy traces. Her eyes narrowed. "Something is wrong," she said, her voice quiet but firm. Elias followed her gaze. "It could be sabotage. We should investigate carefully, without alarming the citizens." Over the next days, Elias led small teams to inspect the palace and surrounding areas. They discovered subtle traps and hidden devices planted by rival factions. Using human ingenuity combined with Xiphoran technology, they safely disarmed the devices. Citizens were unaware, and life continued peacefully. Lyra realized that humans could not only solve problems but also anticipate dangers with creative solutions. Their unpredictability, which she had once feared, became a source of security. Elias had shown her that humans could protect, adapt, and lead without arrogance or recklessness. The cultural exchange reached its peak with a joint scientific project. The goal was to construct a new energy network capable of powering the entire city without harming the environment. Xipharans had the knowledge but lacked flexibility in design, while humans had ideas for efficiency and adaptation. Elias collaborated with Xipharan engineers, merging human designs with alien technology. Together they overcame technical challenges, created innovative solutions, and even improved efficiency beyond expectations. Lyra observed the work closely, impressed by both the humans' determination and the alien engineers' willingness to learn. "This is extraordinary," she admitted softly. "Humans are capable of more than I imagined, and they do not force their way. They collaborate, adapt, and inspire." Elias smiled. "That is how humans work best. We respect knowledge and tradition but look for ways to improve it. The best solutions come from combining strengths, not insisting on one path alone." Through this project, Lyra saw humans not as outsiders, but as partners. Their creativity, empathy, and courage complemented Xipharan intelligence and discipline. She began to question her earlier prejudices, realizing that humans were not reckless, unpredictable, or unworthy. They were capable of extraordinary things, even in a society far different from their own. Yet the festival and collaboration also brought unexpected challenges. Rival factions attempted a disruption during a public ceremony, intending to create fear and suspicion. A device that could have caused chaos was detected and neutralized by a team of humans and Xipharans working together, led by Elias. The citizens, witnessing this coordination, cheered for the unity and courage displayed. Lyra's advisors, who had once doubted humans, now openly praised their intelligence and bravery. "The humans are remarkable," one said quietly. "Perhaps we have judged them too harshly." Lyra nodded, understanding more than she had before. She realized that humans earned respect not through force or threats, but through action, thoughtfulness, and care for others. Even the rogue factions had underestimated this combination of qualities. As the festival ended, Lyra invited Elias for a private walk through the palace gardens. The twin moons reflected on the crystal fountains, and the air was filled with the scent of alien flowers. "You have changed my perspective," she admitted. "I had believed humans were unpredictable, unworthy of trust. But you have shown me that humans can be wise, courageous, and extraordinary." Elias remained calm. "I am glad. Humans, like Xipharans, are capable of good and great things. We all learn, adapt, and grow. The challenge is seeing the potential, not judging by appearances or reputation." Lyra studied him carefully. "And yet, I am still unsure. My words from the ceremony still hold, at least in part. I am a princess, and my decisions carry weight. I cannot ignore tradition entirely." Elias nodded. "I understand. Traditions are important, but sometimes seeing new possibilities does not break them, it strengthens them. Respect, trust, and collaboration can be part of tradition, if people allow it." Lyra walked in thoughtful, Silence, realizing that Elias had taught her more than any lesson in etiquette or diplomacy could. Humans, she understood now, were not outsiders to be dismissed. They were partners, problem solvers, and even heroes when the need arose. The city, restored and thriving, became a symbol of this new cooperation. Humans and Zephorans worked side by side, sharing knowledge, solving problems, and celebrating culture. The people learned that differences could become strengths, and that courage and empathy transcended species. For Lyra, the festival had done more than showcase talent and cooperation. It had challenged her assumptions, reshaped her thinking, and planted a seed of admiration for humans, and for Elias, who embodied their best qualities. And yet, even as she felt her heart open to new possibilities, she held to her words. She was cautious, aware of her duties and the weight of tradition. But now, unlike before, she could see that humans were not just capable, they were remarkable, and perhaps in time she might see even more. As the twin moons rose high above Zephora, casting silver light over the palace and gardens, Lyra walked with Elias, side by side. The cultural exchange had ended, but its lessons were only beginning. Respect, understanding, and admiration had been earned, and a quiet thought lingered in her mind. Humans were not just survivors, they were builders, creators, and perhaps in ways she had never expected, something more. The seeds of friendship, trust, and admiration were sown, ready to grow into something far greater. And Lyra, the princess who had once declared she would marry anyone but the human, began to wonder if humans, and Elias, might prove her wrong. The city of Zyphora glowed under the twin moons, its crystal towers reflecting silver light across the palace gardens. The cultural festival had ended, but the air was still filled with whispers of admiration for the humans who had helped defend the city and strengthen the bond between species. Princess Lyra walked along the terrace, her thoughts heavy. Elias had remained by her side, calm and steady as always. He had demonstrated intelligence, bravery, and empathy beyond anything she had expected from humans. Yet her heart and mind were still cautious. Her words from the ceremony, "I will marry anyone but the human," hung like a shadow, reminding her of the weight of her position and the expectations of her people. A soft voice interrupted her thoughts. "Princess, may I speak freely?" Elias asked, his tone gentle. Lyra nodded. "You may, human, but choose your words carefully." He smiled faintly. "I do not wish to change your mind by force or argument. I only wish to show that humans are capable of greatness and that trust and respect are earned through action. Today your people have seen that firsthand. They have seen that humans can think, adapt, and care, not just survive." Lyra studied him in silence. His words were simple, yet they carried truth. She had seen it herself. Humans had helped evacuate citizens during the attack, devised strategies to repel the invaders, and collaborated with Zephorans in ways no one had imagined. They had proven themselves not only capable, but extraordinary. The next day, a royal council meeting was held to discuss the future of human-Zephoran relations. Lyra presided over the session, sitting at the head of the long table. Advisors and citizens were present, as well as Elias, who had been invited as a representative of humanity. "Princess Lyra," one advisor began cautiously, "the humans have shown great skill and courage. They have saved lives and earned the trust of our people. But can we rely on outsiders for the future of Zyphora?" Lyra considered the question. She could feel the weight of her duties pressing on her. "We must judge not by species but by actions," she said firmly. "Humans have shown their wisdom, courage, and empathy. They have earned our respect, and their presence strengthens our city. Prejudice is a risk greater than any outsider could pose." Elias inclined his head respectfully. "That is the right path. Trust and understanding are built over time. Today's actions are proof that collaboration and respect create stronger societies than fear or isolation ever could." The council murmured in agreement. Even the most skeptical members began to see the potential in human-Zephoran cooperation. Lyra felt a sense of relief and pride. She realized that humans were not just allies. They could be partners, equal, in intellect, courage, and heart. Despite the Council's approval, rival factions continued to plot in secrecy. They envied the growing influence of humans and feared the bond between the princess and Elias. One night, a covert group attempted to sabotage the city's new energy network, the same system humans and Zypherans had collaborated to build. The sabotage was subtle, but potentially dangerous. Elias, ever vigilant, noticed irregular energy readings and quickly identified the threat. Working alongside Zypheran engineers, he devised a solution to prevent disaster. Within hours, the network was secured, and the sabotage attempt was thwarted. Without citizens ever noticing, Lyra observed the events quietly. Once again, Elias's intelligence, courage, and calm under pressure had protected her city. She realized that humans' ability to anticipate, adapt, and act decisively made them invaluable allies, and more than that, worthy of respect and admiration. In the weeks that followed, the city flourished. Humans and Zyphorans continued their cultural and scientific exchanges. Children played together in the gardens, learning each other's languages and traditions. Scholars debated ideas across species, discovering innovations neither could have achieved alone. Citizens celebrated the new era of cooperation, and even the most traditional advisors began to acknowledge the wisdom of Lyra's choices. Lyra, meanwhile, found herself reflecting on Elias constantly. She admired his calm strength, his thoughtful approach to problems, and his humility despite his achievements. She realized that her previous prejudice against humans had been based on fear and assumptions, not knowledge. Humans were capable of extraordinary things, and Elias embodied the best of their qualities. One evening, as they walked together in the palace gardens under the glow of the moons, Lyra spoke softly. "Elias, you have changed my perspective more than I imagined. I once believed humans were reckless, untrustworthy, and unfit for my people, but now I see that humans are capable of wisdom, courage, and kindness beyond expectation." Elias looked at her calmly. "I am glad you see it, Princess. Humans are not perfect, but we strive to do what is right. The measure of a species is not in appearances, but in action and choice." Lyra nodded. Her heart felt lighter, yet she remained cautious. "And yet, my words from the ceremony still hold. I cannot ignore tradition entirely. I am a princess, and my decisions must respect my people." Elias smiled gently. "I understand. True respect, trust, and understanding take time. The heart often follows reason and observation, not only words or tradition. The bond between your people and mine is growing, and it will continue to grow, through trust and action, not force." The final test of human-Zyphoran collaboration came unexpectedly. A new fleet of alien explorers arrived in Zyphora's system, claiming to investigate trade but clearly assessing Zyphora's defenses. They were technologically advanced, and their presence caused tension in the city. Citizens feared another attack, and advisors debated preemptive action. Lyra turned to Elias. "We must prepare, but we cannot act recklessly. What do you suggest?" Elias studied the fleet through telescopic scanners. "We should communicate first. Show cooperation and strength through intelligence and diplomacy, not aggression. Prepare defenses but offer openness and transparency. Trust and capability are our best shields." Lyra followed his advice. Together, they crafted a strategy that demonstrated Zyphora's strength, human ingenuity, and willingness to collaborate peacefully. When the alien fleet landed, they were met with both caution and respect. Diplomatic discussions followed, and within days the visitors acknowledged Zyphora's power, ingenuity, and unity. They left peacefully, their mission accomplished without conflict. Lyra's heart swelled with pride. The city had faced danger, survived, and thrived, not through strength alone, but through intelligence, collaboration, and courage. Humans, she realized fully now, were not just allies, they were partners in every sense. In a private moment after the visitors departed, Lyra turned to Elias. "You have done more than I imagined. You have saved my city, earned the respect of my people, and shown me that humans are capable of extraordinary things. And yet, I have kept my words. I once declared I would marry anyone but a human. Elias's calm eyes met hers. And that is your right, Princess. But you have learned something important. Humans are not defined by assumptions, reputation, or fear. We are defined by our choices and actions. You have seen the best of us, not by tradition, but by courage, thoughtfulness, and empathy. Lyra smiled, a faint blush coloring her cheeks. She realized that her stubbornness had softened, replaced by respect and admiration. Perhaps my words were too absolute. Perhaps humans are more than I imagined. And perhaps one human, in particular, has changed my heart. Elias' eyes sparkled with quiet hope. The greatest journeys begin with understanding. The future is open, Princess, for both our peoples and, perhaps, for us. As the twin moons rose over Zyphora, casting silver light over the city, Lyra understood that the trials, the crisis, and the cultural exchanges had taught her a powerful lesson. Humans were not reckless outsiders. They were intelligent, courageous, adaptable, and capable of great kindness. They could challenge assumptions, inspire change, and earn respect through action rather than status or tradition. For Lyra, the words from the ceremony no longer seemed absolute. Humans had proven themselves, in every way that mattered. And Elias, steady, thoughtful, and brave, had shown her that respect and admiration could grow into something deeper, something she had never expected to feel. The city thrived under their combined guidance, a symbol of cooperation, trust, and the remarkable potential of humans and Zyphorans working together. Rival factions had been exposed and weakened. The future looked brighter than ever, not because tradition had changed, but because understanding and courage had forged a new path. Lyra walked through the palace gardens one last time with Elias, feeling a quiet hope she had never known. The humans had earned their place in Zyphora, not just as allies but as equals, capable of greatness and perhaps capable of love and friendship beyond expectation. And though she had once declared she would marry anyone but the human, Lyra now allowed herself to imagine a future where humans, and Elias, could be part of her world, not as outsiders, but as partners, trusted, respected, and admired. In the quiet glow of the twin moons, Zyphora's princess and the human envoy stood, side by side, ready to face the future together, stronger, wiser, and united in the spirit of courage, collaboration, and hope.